The sun burned high and unkind over the Arizona mesas when Jacob Boone, a quiet cowboy known more for fixing fences than starting trouble, rode toward the river for a drink in a moment of peace, unaware that his life was about to twist into something far louder than his usual silence. He heard the cry before he saw her, a sharp, panicked voice cutting through the slow hum of cicadas. Jacob pulled his horse to a halt, scanning the water until his eyes caught a strange sight. A young woman crouched waist-deep in the river, arms wrapped across her chest, her wet hair clinging to her cheeks, her dark eyes wide with fear and humiliation. "Please help me, cowboy. They stole my clothes," she cried, voice trembling as if what had happened had shattered more than her dignity. Jacob dismounted fast, boots splashing through the shallows as he approached her, making sure to keep his gaze respectfully above her shoulders. "You're safe now, ma'am," he said, his voice steady, calm, the kind that had soothed panicked horses and lost children alike. "Who did this to you?" She swallowed hard, shaking not from the cold water but from the shock. "4 men, outlaws. They came riding through as I was bathing, laughing. They grabbed my clothes, my pack, everything. They said they'd leave them hanging in a tree near Devil's Ridge if I wanted them back, but only if I came get them." "Myself," Jacob clenched his jaw, anger simmering beneath his calm surface. "No decent man pulls such a stunt," he muttered, pulling his coat from his saddle and laying it on the riverbank before turning, his back to give her privacy. When she stepped out of the water wrapped in the oversized coat, shivering but holding her chin high, Jacob finally asked, "What's your name?" "Ilara," she whispered, her voice strong despite everything. "Ilara Blackbird." Jacob knew that surname, Apache blood. Proud blood, brave blood, and trouble always followed anyone who carried it these days. He handed her his horse to sit on while he walked beside her, guiding her toward camp, asking only simple questions to keep her calm. She explained that she'd been traveling alone to meet her brother, a scout for the cavalry, when the outlaws ambushed her. Jacob listened, quiet as always, but his silence wasn't cold. It was steady, like he was building a plan piece by piece in his head. At camp, he gave her food, built a fire, and handed her a blanket while she dried her hair. Ilara watched him with cautious gratitude. She'd met many white men before, some cruel, some kind, but never one who treated her with such careful respect as though he understood the weight of her fear. "Why are you helping me?" she finally asked. Jacob poked at the fire with a stick. "Because somebody has to." She stared into the flames, then whispered the truth that had been burning inside her. "They said they'd be watching. Said they wanted to see me crawl." Jacob's head lifted sharply, eyes narrowing with a cold, focused fury she hadn't seen before. That was when she realized this quiet cowboy wasn't harmless. He was simply disciplined, a man who only showed his teeth when the moment called for it. "Ilara," he said slowly, "those men won't lay a hand on you again. I promise you that, once darkness fell." Jacob prepared his rifle, saddled his horse, and checked the straps on his holster. "You stay by the fire," he told her. "I'll get your things back." "You'll go alone?" she asked, fear and awe mixing in her eyes. "I'm not letting you near those men again," he replied. But Ilara grabbed his wrist, surprising him with the strength in her grip. "They humiliated me," she whispered fiercely. "I won't hide while you fix it." Jacob studied her, then gave one slow nod. "Stay close, no matter what happens. Don't run." Together they rode toward Devil's Ridge beneath the rising moon, the night air heavy with the promise of danger. And all Ilara could think was how strange fate was, how in one cruel afternoon she'd gone from helpless and exposed to riding beside the one man in the Wild West who made her feel protected, without taking power from her. She didn't know what waited at Devil's Ridge, but she knew one thing for certain. The moment Jacob Boone had stepped into that river, her life had changed direction forever. Their shadows stretched long across the desert floor as the ridge rose ahead of them like jagged fangs. And somewhere in the darkness, 4 outlaws laughed, unaware that the quiet cowboy they'd never heard of was coming for them, with fire in his eyes and an Apache woman at his side. Devil's Ridge loomed like a cracked spine against the moonlight, casting long shadows that swallowed Jacob and Ilara as they approached the cluster of mesquite trees where the outlaws had hung her stolen clothes. Jacob stopped his horse, listening, not with ears alone, but with the instinct of a man who had spent more nights under the stars than under a roof. Ilara felt the shift in him, the silent alertness, and slid down from the saddle, staying close as he'd instructed. The soft rustle of movement up the ridge confirmed what she feared. They were being watched. A taunting whistle floated through the night, followed by mocking laughter. She brought herself back. One voice drawled. But she brought company. Jacob didn't answer. He simply stepped forward, moving like a man who'd already measured the odds and decided they weren't enough to scare him. "Easy now, cowboy," another man called, stepping into the moonlight with a revolver loosely in his hand. "We were just having fun with the girl." Jacob's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone level. "Fun ends now. You're returning everything you took." The outlaw smirked. "Or what? You gonna lecture us to death?" The others emerged from the shadows, 4 men with the kind of swagger that comes from getting away with cruelty. Too many times, Alara felt the old fear flicker inside her, but Jacob's presence beside her held it down. He spoke again, voice low and deadly calm. "One chance. Drop the weapons and hand over her belongings." The leader laughed, a sound sharp and ugly. "Boy, you're outnumbered." Jacob's eyes narrowed just enough to reveal the truth. He'd already anticipated this. "You miscounted," he murmured. And before the outlaws could understand what he meant, the sharp whistle of an arrow sliced through the air, landing squarely between the leader's feet. The men stumbled back in shock as a tall shadow stepped from behind a rock. Alara's breath caught. "Nokoma!" It was her brother, silent, fierce, bow still drawn. Jacob had sent him a signal earlier, one Alara hadn't noticed, a trick of smoke and trail markers used by scouts and rangers. The outlaws now faced not one man, but 2 warriors, each dangerous in different ways. "Last warning," Jacob said coldly. But the outlaws were fools. The leader raised his gun, handshaking with pride or stupidity. It didn't matter which. Jacob moved first. His pistol left the holster in one smooth arc, firing a warning shot that shattered the man's hat clean off his head. The outlaws froze, suddenly realizing the quiet cowboy they'd mocked was faster than any of them could ever hope to be. Nokoma's arrow aimed straight at the heart of the second man, and the remaining 2 lifted their hands, voices trembling with excuses. We didn't mean nothing by it. Just playing, that's all." The youngest stammered. "Stripping a woman and leaving her helpless in a river isn't play." Alara snapped, stepping forward, anger burning through her fear. Jacob touched her arm lightly, not to hold her back, but to steady her, to remind her she controlled the moment now. "Give her clothes," he ordered. The outlaws scrambled to the tree, pulling down her garments, pack, and belongings with frantic apologies that came far too late. When everything had been returned, Nokoma stepped closer, eyes hard. "You ride east," he told the outlaws, "and you ride without stopping. If we ever see your faces again, you will not walk away." The men fled into the night like kicked dogs, stumbling over their boots, desperate to escape the silent wrath hunting them. When they were gone, Alara turned toward Jacob, her voice breaking with relief and gratitude. "You saved me." "Twice." Jacob shook his head. "No, ma'am. I just did what any decent man ought to." But Nokoma stepped forward, studying Jacob with the stern scrutiny of a protective older brother. After a long silence, he nodded once. "You are not like the others." Jacob almost smiled. "I've been told that." With dawn rising behind the red cliffs, Jacob built a small fire so Alara could warm herself as she changed into her reclaimed clothes. When she returned, she looked stronger, not just dressed, but restored, dignity unbroken. "Where will you go now?" Jacob asked. "Wherever the trail leads," she replied softly. "But I wouldn't mind if the trail crossed yours again." Jacob looked away for a moment, embarrassed by feelings he didn't quite know how to express. Then he tipped his hat, cheeks warming. "Reckon I wouldn't mind that either." As the sun lit the canyon gold, Alara rode off with her brother, but she kept glancing back at the quiet cowboy who had stepped into danger without hesitation for a woman he'd never met. Jacob Boone watched her ride away, knowing deep in his bones that fate wasn't finished with them yet. And if you want to follow more Wild West stories filled with danger, courage, and unexpected love, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because more powerful tales like this are coming soon, and you won't want to miss a single one.